For decades, China's rise seemed unstoppable. It was the factory of the world. The level of efficiency they had built was so great that it seemed more like an art than an industry. Cities that never slept, production lines glowing bright even at night. Prices fell click by click every year. Western competitors gave up and threw in the towel. It was a miracle of scale, discipline, and planning. Imagine a civilization that could turn human labor into pure economic power. But every miracle has a hidden cost. And China's greatest strength, its ability to make everything cheaper, faster, and bigger, has now turned into what drags it down. China's story is really the story of modern capitalism pushing against its own limits. It's a system that rewards growth, even at the cost of destroying its own future. So what happens when the world's largest economy optimizes itself to exhaustion? What happens when efficiency begins to eat itself? To understand that, we have to rewind the tape a little, back to where China's economic miracle began. The year is 1978. Deng Xiaoping stands before the Communist Party and breaks one of socialism's greatest taboos. He tells the Chinese people to get rich is glorious. And in that moment, one of the fastest transformations the world has ever seen is set into motion. Overnight, peasants became bosses. Fields turned into factories. Investors from Japan, America, and Europe couldn't believe their eyes. Cheap labor, an endless supply of workers, and a government eager to make deals. China created what it called special economic zones. Small test cities with different rules. No central planning, no bureaucratic headaches, no ideological exams. One purpose only: attract capital, produce goods, sell them to the world. That plan worked a bit too well. Shenzhen, once a quiet fishing village of 30,000 people, became a massive metropolis with millions. Within 20 years, the formula spread everywhere. Every city wanted its own boom, its own Shenzhen. Local governments borrowed and built roads, power plants, industrial parks, all to attract more factories. By the early 2000s, China wasn't just growing. It was devouring the world's demand for steel, coal, and oil by itself. Every Western company that wanted to survive moved production there. If something could be manufactured, it would eventually end up stamped with "Made in China." But beneath this rise lay a dangerous logic. Success meant being cheaper than everyone else. Cities competed to attract factories. They slashed land prices, erased taxes, suppressed wages. Companies cut profits, cut quality. Everyone chased growth. No one asked, "Is this sustainable?" It was a race to the bottom, disguised as progress. For a while, no one cared. The machine hummed along. Millions of workers poured in from villages, willing to work 12 hours a day for a fraction of Western wages. Factories never stopped, ports never slept. Western consumers enjoyed their miracle: $5 t-shirts, cheap iPhones. Abundance without inflation. China was getting rich too. But somewhere between the 10th shopping mall and the 100th steel mill, the engine began to overheat. The miracle became an addiction. Local governments needed growth to pay off the debts they'd taken to build factories, so they built even more. By 2015, China alone had more steel capacity than the rest of the world combined. There wasn't enough demand, but production continued at full throttle. Prices started falling, not because of innovation, but desperation. When profits shrank, factories didn't slow down. They sped up, hoping to make it up in volume. But it didn't work. And that's when a new word entered our lives: involution. This isn't just people working more for less money. It's companies producing more for less profit. It's competition that stops being about innovation and turns into a fight for survival. The term used to describe Chinese students studying like crazy for exams. Now it describes entire industries. A war where the only weapon is price, and no one wins. Solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries. Everything in China's new economy has become a battlefield. State-backed companies flood the market with nearly identical products and slash prices. Profit margins collapse, yet no one dares to stop. Because in a place where production is status, stopping production means losing face. The cycle feeds on itself. Firms cut prices, rivals respond, profits collapse, wages stagnate. Consumers enjoy the cheapness at first, then realize this cheapness comes from their own prosperity being squeezed. China has entered an industrial deadlock. Efficiency consumes profit, production consumes purpose. This is no longer a race, it's a collapse. And in a race to the bottom, there are no winners. Today, Chinese-made solar panels sell below cost for this reason. So do the mountains of electric cars rotting in parking lots waiting for buyers. Tech giants devour each other even as their value falls. Exports hit new records, but profits sink by 20%. Because if everyone tries to be the cheapest, the only thing that can fall is the price. This isn't capitalism shifting gears. It's capitalism eating its own tail. And the irony is that China has been here before. In the 2000s, the same thing happened in coal and steel. Beijing shut down factories by force, laid off hundreds of thousands of workers. They cut off a limb to save the body. 20 years later, the same film is playing again. But this time the problem isn't a single sector. It's the entire growth model. Factories in China don't close because of losses on an Excel sheet. They close when politics says close. And Chinese politics doesn't like shrinking. It wants motion, even motion in circles. Behind closed doors, everyone knows the numbers, falling profits, rising debt. But the message to the outside is the same. Keep producing, keep growing, keep believing. Because if the machine stops, the spell breaks. By the 2020s, China's famed efficiency machine had turned into an economy armed against itself. From the outside, it still looks like victory. Record exports, shiny factories. But inside, profits melt away. The miracle no longer creates wealth. It grinds existing wealth down. Economists call it overcapacity. In China, it's not a mistake, it's a policy. Look at solar energy. In 2023 alone, China produced twice the world's demand in panels. Prices fell 40% in 1 year. Companies sold at a loss just to offload inventory. Smaller ones died, but giants kept producing. Because local governments needed the employment, the output numbers, the appearance that everything is fine. The same is happening with electric vehicles. Over 100 brands fighting for a shrinking market. The state offers subsidies, but that only pours fuel on the fire. More supply, lower prices, fewer profits. In the first half of 2024, industrial profits fell by more than 20%. Factories are selling more than ever, but taking home less. The economy grows on paper, but it hollows out inside. And here's the critical part. None of this is happening by accident. Some of it is intentional. China is a master at turning efficiency into a weapon. They'll keep their companies alive with state money until their rivals die. They don't care about quarterly earning. They care about strategic monopoly. Solar panels, batteries, electric vehicles. Beijing doesn't mind losing money today. It wants control tomorrow. Local governments pour billions into factories so companies can sell below cost and wipe out competitors. The logic is ruthless. Flood the market, break the price, bankrupt everyone else, and wait. Western companies that answer to shareholders can't withstand this. They surrender. And once the world depends on China, China does what any monopoly does: raise prices, set the rules. They did this with steel, with rare earths. They sold cheaper than anyone else, until the world had no alternative. But this time the story is different, because now it's not old-fashioned industries. It's the technologies of the future: lithium batteries, chips, electric motors. On paper, the plan is brilliant. In practice, it's fragile, because even an empire can only lose money for so long. When every sector says, "The state has my back," efficiency turns into laziness. Companies compete not with innovation, but with subsidies. The hidden danger behind China's price wars is this: these aren't just economic battles, they are financial time bombs. Every dollar spent keeping those factories open is borrowed from future stability, and eventually someone has to pay the bill. This is the tragedy of what we call the China trap. The strategy that once lifted China to the top is now eating it from within. Because dominance gained through losses isn't victory, it's a delayed collapse. What destroys an empire isn't the end of demand, it's the end of purpose. And the purpose has now been replaced by momentum. The system cannot afford to stop. The municipality needs the factory running to pay its debts. The bank needs the factory borrowing to fix its balance sheet. The state needs them all working to say everyone has a job. If one link breaks, the whole chain unravels. That's why everyone keeps playing the lie that more production means more prosperity. That's the logic of state capitalism. Production is proof of control. If things go bad, the state doesn't pull back. It builds another factory. It's not irrational, it's a survival instinct. China's economy isn't just a money machine, it's the regime's source of legitimacy. The deal is simple: keep growing and the people keep believing. But if growth only brings cheaper goods, the deal breaks. Here's the paradox: China's overproduction lowers inflation globally, but it also suppresses wages and demand at home. The country that lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty now cannot improve their lives further. And as China exports deflation to the world, the global system becomes more fragile too. Cheap Chinese goods once felt like a gift to the West. Life got cheaper. But now that abundance brings weakness, Western factories can't compete. Developing nations can't industrialize. The cost of cheapness is global stagnation. China didn't invent this trap. History did. England experienced it with coal, Japan with technology in the 1980s, even the Roman Empire with grain. Rome produced so much grain on slave-run estates that prices collapsed, and its own farmers went bankrupt. Rome fed itself so well that it condemned itself to imbalance. Every empire that masters efficiency faces the same question: can you stop optimizing just long enough to survive? Chinese leaders know this. They talk constantly about rebalancing, about shifting from investment to consumption. But that takes time. And a system addicted to growth has no time. It's like trying to go on a diet while every stove in the kitchen is on full blast. The painful irony is that the panels and batteries China overproduces are exactly what the world needs to save itself. But as prices collapse and companies go bankrupt, even the Green Revolution can stall. Cheap abundance is a trap. Not because it doesn't create wealth, but because it kills the desire to create more. China's problem isn't low productivity, it's too much productivity. This is an empire that has mastered production but lost balance. It floods the world with goods but can't create the demand needed to profit from them. The ruthless competition that made China rich now prevents anyone from enjoying that wealth. When progress is measured by how much cheaper you can make something no one needs, the end has already begun. This isn't development. It's an industrial-scale inward collapse. And like every empire before it, China is learning. There's nothing more expensive than being too cheap. Because when a system optimizes everything except balance, the only thing it destroys in the end is itself. If what I've explained gave you a new perspective, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. History is full of answers. I just show you where to look.